Hi, this is Ellery Connell. I'm going to record a short video here to give feedback on your entry for the AWA challenge. So this is the Cybo Voodoo one, and I'd like to look here first at the main scene and then at this secondary one, the secondary angle, and just talk about a few things that are nicely done, and then some areas that you might look for to improve on your future works. So first of all, I like the work that you've done with the grass. The overall scene looks like it's laid out pretty nicely. You've done a good job using simple geometry in order to really get the job done here. So I mean, it's very easily readable as kind of simple huts with then the technology of solar panels on the roofing, so that reads very easily, and that's very nicely done. That's kind of really helps to sell your scene quite a bit. Grass is looking good. Overall, nice color variation on the grass and whatnot. And now one thing that I'd like to point out here is that if you look on the background hill, the scale of the texture is actually much too large, but on the background hill in this angle it's working relatively well because it's being hidden by other geometry. However, if you look over at the second shot, we're not getting that kind of occlusion by foreground geometry, so we've got things like this right here in this corner right here over the shoulder, and then to a lesser extent here and here we see that there's a real breakdown in the scale of the grass, and it's kind of hurting the overall quality of the image as well. Let's see, the overall job of modeling and scene layout looks to be pretty good. You've done some nice work. Good job using primitives and things like that in order to lay out your scene with these cylinders to help build the bedding and whatnot, and then obviously some real simple geometry, but with the textures sells well for the LCD screen that's here in her hand. Now, a couple of things also to look for here as far as characters is be careful when you're looking at the posing of what's going on, because these poses, and I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but have some kind of interesting read to them, the way that they look and they're appearing here, and you can see it in both of the shots here. And the character that's here on the bed, you can see from this angle and also from this angle, because there's not a lot of weight to the character, she just appears to be kind of hanging out. It doesn't look like she's really going through much. However, the second character here off to the side looks very worried, and the relationship between the two is a little bit difficult to read because of the way that this character seems to not really care much, and the secondary character does. So it kind of is a little difficult to read here. Now this third character here, as far as overall posing, is working fine. I think that this arm you should be a little bit careful on, because it looks like you're getting kind of a rounding on the arm from this angle. Now from this angle the arm is significantly better and looks okay. The one thing though that is a problem is the smoke here. So the smoke is a very nice touch, but be careful that it's really hiding your character, and beyond hiding the character, it's also causing some weird interactions in the lighting that makes it hard to see what's going on here. You've done some nice model work on the headgear here, so I'd like to be able to see that. Yeah, so overall, nice work. Keep up the good work, and if you have any questions for me, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to give you some help. Thanks. Bye for now. Hi, this is Ellery Connell, just providing some feedback for your AWA entry, and I'd like to point out some really good work that you've done in here, and then also make a few comments about some things that you might look at as you continue to progress and work on more projects. So first of all, I really like the mood that you've set up. This is looking very nice. I'm getting a nice sense of kind of a little bit gloomy lighting, but then the brightness on the face is showing some hope. Overall, really nice job here setting the mood. It's simple, but effective lighting, and I really appreciate that. It's been nicely done, and it reads well from all of the angles. Here from this secondary angle, you're getting the light here on the face, and then everything's kind of falling back into the foreground for the most part, or into the background rather, for the most part. And then also even from the third angle here, the light is reading pretty well too. This one, I don't like the way that the pose looks quite as much from this angle, but I know it's just a secondary angle. But the lighting also does read pretty well. So let's go back to the main angle here and continue to look at some things. So even though the lighting is reading very nicely, there's one thing I'd like to point out here, and that is with the extra kind of grass and things that you have in here. And I see that you're working with Maya, and I'm not sure if this is just a texture on some planes or if you're using paint effects. And if you're using paint effects, it looks like they're not linking up to the light correctly, so they're kind of bright and really stand out. And at this point, honestly, I would just say leave these out. You can get away just fine without having these in here, so I think it would be fine to just leave these out. And if you're going to leave them in and you're not going to worry about linking up light, look at darkening them up considerably so that they blend more into the background, and it will kind of make them less distracting, because right now I get a nice clean read on this character with the light coming in from the right. And if we take these out, which here I'll just go and I'm going to very quickly grab a brush here since we're talking about it. So let's see, where's my burn? Here we go. So let's get our burn brush. So if we just kind of knock these back a little bit into the background, I'm just going to real roughly do this. Obviously this would be better to do right inside of Maya, but I'll just do it right here. And let's shrink our brush down a bit and kind of clean these up. So if I knock these back and make them a little bit more secondary than they are right now, they're reading as kind of a primary focus in the scene. So it'd be nice to be able to knock those back a bit, and then they are going to not be quite so obvious in the scene. And then there's going to be less distraction from the character in the water, which are kind of the main selling points of the scene anyway. There we go. So you can see right there really quickly, we've got that done. And if you look here between there and there, there's a lot less distraction to the character. So there, a little bit distracting to the character. Here, we just read the character pretty cleanly, and now those just read as extra details, which is really what you wanted to get out of there. Overall, your texturing is looking pretty nice. Some good work here. The texturing is getting a little bit heavy here. Watch the percentages on your bump maps. It looks like it's a little bit overdone on a lot of the bump maps, and I would say just turn the values down a little bit and get a little bit of a lighter touch on the bump maps. Yeah. Other than that, the textures are looking pretty nice. Some nice work using photographic textures here on the hands. Maybe a little bit more care could be taken around just kind of the mouth area on the face. And this is a little bit of a caricature, so you're not looking for exact realism, but there's a little bit of a harsh edges between here that could just be softened a little bit. And you know, a lot of this can actually be done in post. There's nothing wrong with going in here with a little bit of a brush and just kind of softening with a blur tool a little bit, and that kind of knocks that back. Obviously, I'm doing this very quickly, but you kind of get the idea. A little bit of softness will go a long way towards lightening this up. And yeah, so overall, very nice work. Good job with the lighting and the texture. The pose is nice. Some nice work with that. Modeling looks good. Keep up the good work. Looks like you got a lot of promise, and I appreciate your entry. If you have any questions or would like to ask me anything about this, please feel free to shoot me an email. Thanks. Bye for now. Hi, this is Ellery Connell providing you with some feedback for your AWA entry, and I'd like to point out some things that you've done really nicely here, and also look at some things that you can do to improve as you work on your future painted scenes. All right, first of all, overall, lighting, composition, color use, I like it a lot. Very nicely done. Good job capturing a very interesting feel here. Overall, I really like it. I like the sense of depth. You've done some nice work with some feeling of camera depth here, so objects in the further background being blurred more. There are a couple of places where that breaks down a bit, and mainly it's right around here on these windows. I think these should probably be blurred a little bit more. And it's where they're meeting the tree line, so I can see it'd be an easy spot to miss. And also around here, you can see that these ones are a little bit over focused. So something like that. And obviously, remember, I'm just doing a very, very rough job here. So, and then also there's a little bit in here. I think kind of some of this stuff should be should be blending in a bit more, and that would help to add a little bit of the depth. Okay, and let's see here. Continuing on, you've done a nice job starting to add in some texture here. The only problem with the texture that you've added in is we're getting a lot of sense of repetition in the texture. And one of the things that you can do to really get away from that is, let's go in here and have a look at that, is by actually just using your clone brush itself here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get a clone stamp. And if you just mix up where you're sampling from, you can really get rid of some of the evenness here. So I'm just going to start over here and put in a little bit over here. I'm going to grab some from over here and put it over here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through trying to kind of break down the evenness that that we're seeing here. And also you can use this to also adjust your lighting just a little bit. So like here, kind of this underside, I like to see a little bit more of the darkness. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint in a little bit more of the darker shadow areas here. And as you go along doing this, just make sure that you're constantly kind of resampling, getting stuff from a new area before you make really long strokes. And that will avoid getting a lot of... Apologize for that. Had a little bit of a crash on my video capture software. So yeah, doing that will help break down a lot of the repetition, and then it will also kind of mask the fact that you're using a texture, and it will seem more like just kind of organic detail that's blending in with the scene. So another thing to note here is you've done some nice job kind of getting some of that texture in here on this tree, which is a little farther in the background. Apologize for that crash again. You're getting some nice texture detail on this kind of secondary tree that's not in the foreground, and then this foreground one that's right by the character I think should have some of that same detail, and maybe even a little less here, so something to keep in mind. All right, and then finally moving on to the character. This is the only real complaint I have about it, is that the character seems kind of brightly lit for the environment. Now, that's not saying that he can't be lit this way, but I think the way that you might want to handle that would be to kind of darken some of the more background things and just kind of pull the focus in with the overall amount of lighting so that it pulls in on your character, and then that's going to feel like there's a light or something shining on him. So you might want to just darken up some of the areas around him, and that will help kind of pull in the focus on him, and it will make the lighting on him seem more appropriate because it's going to look as if it's coming from a single source. We're looking at something that looks kind of like nighttime, and we want to play that fact up by darkening some of the other areas, including here where we see a bunch of the kind of lighter blue color in the water, and that would be indicative of more of a daytime sky. But if you look up here at the sky, it's definitely darker, so you might want to play those values back a little bit. Overall, very nice job, very nicely assembled, good work, nice sense of depth, a few minor tweaks, and I think you'll be looking at a really lovely piece. I would say continue working on this one. I really like it, and I look forward to seeing some of the things that you do in the future. If you have any questions or comments for me, please feel free to ask. Shoot me an email if you'd like. Thanks, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hi, this is Ellery Connell providing you with a little bit of feedback on your submission to the AWA competition. I'd like to thank you for your entry and point out some really nice work that you've done here, and then make a few comments on things that you can improve as you continue to work on your future pieces. All right, so overall, love the feel of the character. He would play great in a cartoon, would work well in a video game. Overall, just really nice character concept. Love the pajamas. They really help sell the character. Looks really good. You've done a nice job with retaining the likeness through the different views, so you can tell that it's all the same character. Sometimes that can be a really difficult thing. You've done some good work on there. A couple of little minor things on that you might look at is the toes are looking really nice in this front view. They're getting a nice amount of roundness, and they feel very complete. But here on the side views, on the 3/4 and the side views, they're starting to look kind of flat. And it's not that they're distractingly off, but with how good they look in this front view, I'd like to see that same kind of thing carry over onto the side view in the 3/4 view here. And you can notice this also a little bit on the nose, but it's not as pronounced, and also on the fingers. So just look at retaining that kind of cartoony roundness that you've got going on with the fingers and the toes on this front view and carrying that across. And it can be something as simple as how you're doing your line your line boundaries. So look at how you've got your corners in Illustrator. You may want to just round them slightly and give them rounding around the corners instead of hard-edged corners, and that might do the trick for you. So really nice work there. I love the way the hair reads from the 3 views is really nice. And overall, the character's looking really good. You've got a good, friendly-looking character here that looks likable, and he'd be somebody that you would want to see in a cartoon or a game or a short film or anything. So very nicely done. I'd like to see how you would do some environments actually that would go with him. One thing that I would like to see, and it's just, this might be something that you want thematically, but this is just my opinion. That's, I guess you're here for my opinion, so I'll give it to you, is I would like to see the texture vary a little bit across the sleeves of the pajamas and also across the pant legs. Because if you notice here, you see the way that the texture carries straight across everything. It kind of makes the arm blend in, and it kind of gives you that feeling of a really old kind of Hanna-Barbera cartoon where they just have one flat texture and it carries across anything that has the same material on it. Well, I would like to see you reuse maybe a piece of the texture here on the sleeve, but offset a little bit, and then that would move with the sleeve. So I don't know if you intend to animate this character, but if you do, that would be a nice touch that would help kind of sell him. So if he moves his arm, we don't want to see the texture stay in one place where the arm moves, and that would help a lot with that. Gosh, overall, you've done a good, clean job with your execution. I really like the work that you've done here. I hope that you continue to work on it, and I look forward to seeing more of your stuff. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to answer it. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hi, this is Ellery Connell. I'm providing you with some feedback for your AWA entry here in the for your 3D image, and I'd like to point out some of the nice things that you've done in your submission, and also point out some things that you can look at as you continue to work on your future 3D scenes. All right, first of all, overall, I really like the overall feel of this. It's got a feeling of kind of dirty and darkness, but then the hope on here that's on the card, you kind of read it in the scene. There's a certain amount of lightness and life to, especially the robot here and the smiley face, that kind of helps make it feel a bit hopeful. So I like the way that you've got you've done some nice job with the debris on the ground, the scattered papers in the can and everything. That really kind of helps to add to that sense of a bit of a kind of chaotic, dirty scene, and also some nice work with a little bit of wear on the robot's material. Overall, very nice job on that. I also like the shader that you've made for the trash cans. It's looking really nice. I like the use of the blurred reflections. With these, I would say probably add a little bit more dirtiness to them. They don't kind of match up with the rest of the scene as much as they ought to. So just adding even some photographic image maps. You can go take a photograph of something dirty and grungy and just use that photograph to help kind of attenuate your reflective values, and then also kind of darken it up in some areas, and that will help to give you some nice realism. And as you get into doing more and more detail on that, you'll also look at localized wear and detail and things like that. So grunge and grime and things that would collect into smaller crevices, and then wear and scratches and scuffs on things that are surfaces that are going to be more exposed to being bumped and damaged and things like that. Be careful with shadows. The lack of shadows on the couple of posters here kind of makes these seem floaty. They kind of look like they're in front of the character almost, not back stuck to the wall as they should. And then the other reason for that, besides the shadows, is that the background reads, the bricks read as being very large and very blurry. So you could go with the same image map that you've used and just scale it down. You know, think a typical brick is probably in the ballpark of about 4 inches high. So, you know, these right now look like they're probably about 8 or 10 inches high. So probably scale these down to half or a little bit less than half of their scale, and that will help them not only look better because it's a little bit of a blurry texture map at this scale, but it will also help sell the scale of the entire scene. And then you could either position these so that you get some 3D shading and getting some shadows on these, or if you're putting these images on in Photoshop and it's just one big texture, you can still scale down the bricks and then just go in with your burn tool, and you could just kind of burn around the kind of lower and side edges of these a little bit, and that will help to give them a little bit of shadow and attach to the scene a lot better. One other thing, and this is just personal taste, that I would like to see here on this robot that helps it read as a little bit more mechanical would be a little bit of reflection. It's looking a little bit rough, and right now it's kind of like it's somewhere across between copper and leather is the way I'm reading it, so it's not looking too metallic and robotic. You obviously have some stuff that you've done with some metallic shaders, so just look at applying a little bit of that onto him and you should be good to go. So overall, good work so far. Keep up the good work. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Thanks, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hi, this is Ellery Connell. I'm just providing you with some feedback for your image submitted to the AWA competition. And I'm going to point out some of the things I really like about here and a few things that you can do to improve as you continue working on your CG scenes. All right, so first of all, really nice job with the modeling here. The Lamborghini coming around the corner is looking really nice. Overall, good clean lines. And with the reflections turned on this heavy, you can really easily read the curvature. So you can see that the surface continuity is good. We've got the nice break here like we would have in the hood, so you can see that happens nicely, but there's no weird bumps or distortions in the hood, so it looks about like it should. Also here with the second car, nice job here, work on the grill and the bumpers and everything. Everything's looking really nice. The guns might be a little oversized, but that's just my taste. Overall, very nicely done, nicely put together. Yeah, so I think also the work here on the background here in the buildings in the background, that's really nice work. You've done a good job setting up these to fill out your scene very nicely. So it's a very good job here. Texture work on the ground is looking pretty good. Overall, you've got a nice use of photographic texture. One thing that I would mention about the material that you've created for the road would be to knock back the bump a bit. Bump is really heavy, and so we see a lot of very high contrast in the white paint, and then also here just on the black concrete as well, or the black asphalt rather as well. So I'd say knock your bump back maybe to 20% or 25% of what it is right now, and that will help a lot to make this look a little bit more naturalistic and work a lot better. Work on the curb is actually pretty nice here, though. It's reading pretty well. I'd say still knock the bump back just a bit. That kind of detail is not the thing that's going to show up if you're looking for real, realistic photographic kind of quality here. Materials on the cars, I would say take some time to learn about ramp shaders, and I see you're doing this in Maya. Yeah, so I'd say look at using ramp shaders, and what the ramp is going to allow you to do is it's going to just basically act as a gradient so that you can attenuate your values for different aspects of the shader based on different input parameters. And in the case of doing things like reflective properties and things like that, what you want to do is the incidence angle. So basically when the paint or the painted surface is facing directly at us, we're not going to see nearly as much reflection. So right here on this part of the hood should be significantly less. But then as the angle of the painted material, the painted surface rather, reaches perpendicular with us, we should get up to nearly a mirror-like reflection. And right now it's looking relatively even and straight just across the whole thing, just very shiny and reflective, and it kind of detracts from the good modeling work that you've done. And I would say some similar things here to look at with this car. Even though it doesn't have as much reflective quality, I think that a little bit of reflection at those edges with that Fresnel effect, that is, as we get those angles that are facing perpendicular to our viewpoint, a little bit of reflection is really going to help, even though this is a relatively matte shader that you have on this secondary car. The final thing that I'd say to look at is, as you continue to work here, is lighting. Spend a little bit of time working with your lights in general, and also I would say with the good modeling work that you've done here, if you don't want to be spending a lot of time setting up your lighting environments, look at using high dynamic range environments, so HDRIs as your environments. There are a lot of good sources for good free HDRIs that you can use to not completely light your scenes, although that is an option, but to help you build the basis for good lighting in your scenes, using HDRIs is a really good way to go. It's going to give you some good realistic fill light and also some nice reflections that will help show off the good modeling work that you've done. Overall, very nice job. Thank you for submitting. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.